because I really enjoy listening more than talking. So maybe somebody could share one inspiring story from the work at the center in Brazil. It could be personal. Inspiring story. Czar project. You have an inspiring story?
I have a lot of inspiring story, but it's not exactly from Brazil.
But you're from Brazil, so it's kind
Yes,
of from Brazil.
it's a kind of.
Talk about that you are start sharing lectures and talking.
I'm trying to.
First of all, everybody understands English? Yes?
I'm trying to start to give lectures, and I want to do also the training. For me, it's important. But I'm trying in Brazil to explain to people about the graves, how it's important to come to see and to live Kabbalah. Because I think in Brazil we are very far from here, very far from the leaders of the center, Darren, all the others, Jeffries, teachers. So I'm trying to tell them the importance to be connected, and it's much easier to be connected when you live what you are learning. I think we are very distant, and this is something that people have to understand, that they have to make an effort to come and to connect, and then we can spread much more when we get the energy. When we come back home, we can explain with our experience, because it's difficult when we try to explain people without living what we are explaining. So I think this is amazing. When you come here, you see people, you connect with other people from all over the world, so you can share your experience. And you start, I think, like we can explain people how to connect the dots, because this is Kabbalah. It's just to understand what is happening in our life when we are consciousness, we think about our actions, and I think the most important is the practice, because it's very easy to understand in a mental level, but it's very difficult to live like this and to experience. So I think this is very important for Brazil, and we all have difference, so we are having challenges in Brazil, and I think we have to focus what is our goal, why we are going to the center, what we want with having a center in Sao Paulo. So I would like you also to share to us what in what way we have to think and to direct the center for what. Because I think we are in a moment a little like constructing in Brazil, building the community. So I think it's important to have clear that we are working for the same goal. And I think everybody wants the same, but we are like not very aligned with what the center wants us to do. I think it's important for us to be all aligned with the same consciousness. So I think for me this is the best way to unite people together, because we are really different people, but we have to think in unity. And I don't know, like I think in Brazil we are a little like
small silent.
Yes, you know. So I think this is not good for us. It's not good for the center. It's not good for the world. So we have to have this unity, and we are here really to know from you how we can bring this unity, be really together, because when we are together we have the power to do much more than by ourselves. So it's easy to be alone, and it's very difficult to be together. So I think this we really need in Brazil.
Yeah. So I'll say a few things as you were talking that came to mind. First, you were talking about the fact, Blena, bringing a strong foundation, the center in Brazil. And I'm sure is there people here from Rio as well, or just Sao Paulo?
No, I'm from Sao Paulo.
Sao Paulo. Everybody Sao Paulo?
Yeah.
You're from Rio?
No, we're from Paraguay. We're from Paraguay. But I think the conscience we have from Ecuador also for other countries. The conscience is the same for Brazil, but should be for all over the world.
Yeah. So I was going to say, one of the places, I'm not sure if everybody went on this trip, but there's a few, in Israel, there's so many powerful places. This, of course, being one of the most powerful. But one of my favorite places is the Idra Rabbah. And the Idra Rabbah, I think most of you know, it says that it's the place where Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said one day, right? He had a student. He had 9 main students, his son and 8 other main students. And the beginning of the Idra Rabbah, Rabbi Shimon says something very interesting. He says, how long will we remain, sort of not connected? And you think about it. I mean, you're talking about Rabbi Shimon, his son Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Abba. I mean, you're talking about people who are way beyond where we are spiritually. But clearly, what he was saying is that unity is not first of all not easy, even for the most elevated spiritual souls, and second, it's not natural. That what he had to do, and that's why did one of the reasons why did the Idra Rabbah happen in that way, right? Rabbi Shimon, they studied for thousands of days here and there. What was unique about the Idra Rabbah? What was unique about that one day where Rabbi Shimon said, this is the day when he starts with the words, one of my favorite verses in the Zohar, Anan bechavivuta talia. Rabbi Shimon says before he begins the revelation of the secrets, he says what we're going to do today, the foundation, has to be of love. But what you understand is that even Rabbi Shimon and his students, who all, of course, were very elevated spiritually, were all doing the spiritual work, they needed to take one day, separate themselves from everything that they were doing. So this is the day of our unity. This is the day that we're going to be completely focused on unity. As he says, Anan bechavivuta talia, which means that what we're going to do today will be only based on unity. And then came the great revelation of the Idra Rabbah. It's a very important understanding. Like you would imagine, most of us would have, at least Rabbi Shimon and his son Rabbi Elazar and the other 8 students, they could have unity everywhere. Every day they can have unity. Every day they can have revelations. No, even Rabbi Shimon and his 8 students and his son Rabbi Elazar needed to focus on unity to have unity. It's a very important understanding. Rav Ashlag, some of you might not know this, but when he began teaching here, some of you know, he came here in the 20s and he came to Jerusalem. And he had a relatively small group of students. Depending, there were the close ones and the 10, 20 really, really close ones, and then at the most there were 40 students. I was talking to one of the students on the way back from the north, and we know the center. Well, everybody knows the center as they know the center. If you've been here for 5 years, for 10 years, for 15 years, you know the center as you know the center. But it's a mistake to think of the center as what you know of it now. For instance, if you had an understanding of what the center was 30 years ago, what was it? And again, I'm not sure everybody has this perspective, or not everybody was there. At the time, the Rav said, what we need to do, there were no classes. Nobody was teaching anybody anything. There was only one focus. There was 2 focuses. One, to get the books out, as many Zohars as you can, as many of the Kitvei Ari, the writings of the Ari, just get the books out. And raise money so we can print more books. That's it. There wasn't a class, there wasn't a Kabbalah 1, there wasn't a Kabbalah 2, there wasn't a Zohar, there was nothing. So, why is it important to know? Because our concept of the center should not be, what is the center? Oh, it's a place where people come and they take Kabbalah 1 and take Kabbalah 2, they join the community. Maybe that's what's happening right now, and maybe that's exactly what the center needs to be doing now, but the center is as the Rab would say, it's a being of the Creator. And how it manifests itself today is one way, and maybe tomorrow it'll be in a different way, and the next day. It's dangerous to get attached to specific things that are going on, because that's not what the center is. You know, one of my favorite stories of the Rav, this is he's not here now, but some of you might know, Michael Moskowitz from New York. He told me that about 25 years ago, when we lived in Queens, after the morning connection, he comes to the Rav. The Rav, those of you know, would spend after the minyan would end, after all the morning connections, and everybody left, the Rav would spend hours in the war room continuing to make the connections. And the Rav called, and the Rav was there alone. Michael Moskowitz walked in, he called him over. And he said to Michael, he said the following. The Rav made a fist with his hand, and he started moving his hand like this. And the Rav said, you know what this is? Michael said, yeah, no idea what it was. So the Rav's fist moving around. He says, this is the Rav. And wherever the center is, that's where the Rav is. He said, Michael, you have to know that the center is a thought in the Creator's mind. It's very important to understand this. It's not, it manifests this way, it manifests that way. All that changes all the time. But in its essence, and that's where we have to be. And I think, was everybody here with us at the Rav's Hilulah?
Yeah.
Everybody was here. So you heard the story that I told from Avi Nachmias, right? Where the Avi told, where the Rav told Avi that he needs to pray every day that he should have the merit to be in the center, the Rav, right? Because the center was beyond the Rav. The center was not, the Rav had the merit to be in the center, but this, as the Rav said, the center is a thought in the Creator's mind. Okay, so then we're saying, so 30 years ago, there were no classes, there were no teachers, there were chaver going door to door, trying to sell as many zars as they could, trying to get as many books out. Because at the time, the Creator said, that's what the center needs to do. In the past 10, 15 years, the center has taken what? I remember in the early 90s, I was sitting with the chaver, and we were talking about people that they knocked on the door, and they were telling like amazing miracle stories. I knocked on a person's door, he got the zar, and he called me the next day. He said literally, it changed his life. And then I said, do you have his number? Are you going to stay in touch with him? No. There was no consciousness of students or even staying in touch with people who made a connection. No, it's on to the next person. Give him a zor, give him a book. And that was right for that time. And the Creator has shown that for now, there's Kabbalah 1, Kabbalah 2, Kabbalah 3. But what I want to say is that when we have an appreciation for what the essence of the center is. Now it doesn't mean that we all don't make mistakes and things happen in the center that shouldn't happen, but in its pure state, right? Like we know about ourselves. We have two beings. We have the being that exists in this world that sometimes falls and sometimes goes up, and there's we know that there's the perfected, which we connect to on the first day of Sukkot, the perfected me that never falls, that is always connected to the light of the Creator. That essence of me always exists. Whether I fall in this world, that can happen, but my perfect self always exists. So when you have that concept of what the center is, it hopefully diminishes on some level, which is important, a focus on this has to happen, or this is the way it should happen. That's all secondary. That's all secondary. And so you asked about the consciousness. More important than getting into any of the details, are you doing this, or are you doing that, or is this happening in the center? The more of us that can have a connection to the essence of the center. And the essence, it's beyond anybody. It's beyond anything. It is this, as the Rav called it, I think that's maybe the purest way to think about it. It's a thought in the Creator's mind. In this generation, it happens to manifest through these people here, and all over the world. But we are not the center. And the center is not what is happening in the center. In its purest form, the center is this thought in the Creator's mind. And the more of us that can have that understanding, and then it diminishes, hopefully, the attachment we have of, that's not happening, or this is happening, or I am not doing this, or he or she is not doing that. That's not what the center is. Yes, you have, of course, as I said, yes, we are teaching Kabbalah 1, and yes, we are giving out Zohar, and yes, we are studying Zohar, and yes, I am doing my spiritual work. But that's not the essence. It's very important to understand. And the second part, the second lesson that we have from the Idra Rabbah, we talk about changing the world. We talk about even changing Brazil, to changing Sao Paulo, bringing great light to Sao Paulo. One of my favorite quotes is, they say you can ask, there's some people who, when they have a problem or they need advice, they ask 20 people. People like that, but some people just, you can talk to this person to get advice, and this person, and this person, and that person. I say it's right. It's always better. You can ask 10 people their opinion, or you can ask one person who knows, right? So there's people who like, so it's, you need to have a lot of people to talk to, or sometimes you just need the one right person. So when we talk about the world, or we're talking about even bringing great light to Sao Paulo, how many people did Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai need to bring the light of the Zohar to the world? The Idra Rabbah. 9 other people.
Wow.
Him and 9 other people, right? So sometimes you might not even need 100 people or 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people. You just need to write 10 people, for instance. Right? Again, it doesn't mean that we don't want B'ezrat Hashem for the light of the Zohar. The light needs to get to millions of people, but it needs to be sometimes. And the reason I'm talking to this group, because we're a group of 30 people from Brazil, people from Ecuador, people from Mexico. It's important to understand that while at the same time we are working on getting the light of the Zohar and the light of Kabbalah to millions of people in Brazil and bring that light to Brazil. Also, I should say I want to be the 1 in 10 people that Rabbi Shimon needs in Sao Paulo. Right? We have more than 10 people here, right? So if every single person in this world was that 1 in 10 that Rabbi Shimon needed, everything would change. It's important for us to understand that. So and going back to what the center does 2 things. There's really 2 things the center does. And it's interesting, it sort of correlates to the 2 periods in the center's history so far. There is the work of disseminating, B'ezrat Hashem, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of students. And then there's the core. There's the core, if it's 5, if it's 2, if it's 10, if it's 20, if it's 30, the people who are really committed. What does committed mean? I was talking to a student from Latin America earlier today. I always say, and it's an important thought, that we should be so connected to this essence of this wisdom, and now we understand to the essence of what the center is, so that if Chas v'Shalom, the Kabbalah Center did not exist, there was no such thing as a Kabbalah, and there wasn't even Chas v'Shalom a center in Sao Paulo, I would still do what I'm doing today, which means I would still put all of my effort to getting this light, the light of the Zohar, the light of Kabbalah, to as many people as I could. Well, without a center in Sao Paulo, it would be difficult to bring it to thousands, but maybe I could bring it to 2 other people. But that's being connected to the essence. And it's not because he spoke to me nicely today, or he didn't upset me yesterday, or I'm happy with what she's doing, and that's why I'm here. No. I'm here because my essence is connected to this light and this wisdom, and I don't care what else is happening. I don't care what's going on. Center, no center, this person's nice to me, this person's terrible to me. My essence is so connected to this wisdom, I will continue doing what I can to bring this light to 1 other person, if that's all I can do, because that's my essence is connected to. And that's the core. That's what the core has to be. Yes, B'ezrat Hashem, we also have to bring the wisdom to millions and millions of people and improve this person's life a little bit and that person's life and bring a little bit more light there. At the same time, there also has to be the building of a core. Like I said, a core could be 1 person. I always think, when Brandwein left this world, right over here, in 1969, right? What was the core? It was 1 person. Who was the core, right? And because of that 1 person, the Rav, we're all sitting here now, and millions of people all over the world have received this wisdom. So, yes, and one does not negate the other. The need to do everything we can to get the light and wisdom to millions of people does not negate the need for the strong core, which could be 1 person, or 5 people, or 10 people, or 20 people. And what we, who are more closer to the essence, we have to say, I want to be one of those 10. I want to be one of those 4. And it means only 1 thing, as I said. At the core, it means that my commitment to this work is not dependent on anything else. Not dependent on anything else. It's dependent on the fact that I believe the Creator has chosen me to be one of the few people in the world who is committed to this work. And I'm going to do that no matter what. No matter what else is happening in the center, outside the center, with this person or with that person. Because it's part of my essence. This is part of my essence. So that's the second part of what the consciousness around the center should be. It should be around building the core, and the core does not have to be millions. It could be, as I said, 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 or 20 or 30. And at the same time, yes, doing what we can to get the wisdom out to millions and millions of people. One other thing, we have to leave here, so I'll share one more story. One of my favorite stories that I actually just read on this trip. One of my favorite places in Israel, as I said, is the Idra. But maybe amongst the top 3 is the cave in Pinin.
Some of them just went.
Right, where Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was there for 12 years, then had to go back for a year. And why was the essence of the Zohar revealed to Rabbi Shimon in Pekin? Because he was uncomfortable. He was a great soul, and his destiny was to bring that light to the world, reveal it in a way that we can access it. But his destiny would not have been met had he not been very uncomfortable for 12 years. It's that simple. It's that simple. To be spiritual and to study and to connect is important. But if you want to know when and how you really connect, you really manifest what your soul came to this world to manifest, the question has to be, how uncomfortable are you trying to make yourself? And that's very important. You know, imagine even the soul of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who was one of the greatest souls that ever came to this world. His ability to reveal the light of the Zohar would not have manifested had he not been very uncomfortable for 12 years. So there's a story that I read. There were about one great Kabbalist. His name was Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch of Zivitcher. And once he became very ill, and the doctors told him, and this was he lived in Eastern Europe, and it was during the winter, it was very cold. The doctor said he had to stay in bed at least for the next few weeks, not to go outside, certainly not to go to the mikveh. In those days, they didn't have most of the mikvehs like we. It was in the river, and sometimes the river was frozen. And the doctors told him, you're very, very unhealthy. You are not allowed to leave your bed, not allowed to leave your house. So once one of his friends, another great Kabbalist, his name was Rabbi Naftali of Rufshitz, came to visit him. And he came at night, and he came to the house of Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch of Zivitcher, the great Kabbalist. And he comes into the house and he sees the shamash, the person who was helping him outside his bedroom. And he says, where's the Kabbalist, where's Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch of Zivitcher? He says, well, he's sleeping. He said, are you sure he's sleeping? He said, yes, because the door was open. He said, did you fall asleep? He asked the guy or something. He said, yeah, I was sleeping, but he hasn't left the room, I'm sure. So Rabbi Naftali of the friend, walks in, opens the door. He sees he's not in the bed. Where could he be? It's the middle of the night. It's cold out, it's freezing outside, it's snowing. They say, he's just about crazy enough to go to the river to do a mikveh. So they go down to the river, which was a very long walk, and they see, and the river was frozen. On the other side of the river, Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch of Zivitcher was in the water, with his head covered, with a candle on the ice, studying the Zohar. So the Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch of Zivitcher goes to Naftali of Rufshitz, goes to Tzvi Hirsch and said, what are you doing? The doctors told you that it's very dangerous for you to be outside. You're in this frozen river. How long have you been sitting here? And he tells me, this is the way I study Zohar. I go in the river, I make a hole in the river, I go in the water, I cover my head, and I read and I study the Zohar. And he says, but the doctors told you can't. He says, let me show you something. Put your hand in the water around me. He put his hand in the water around him, and the water was warm. But the lesson, there's many lessons from the story. But what I wanted to say is that, we think we study Zohar, right? We think we connect to the Zohar. And even sometimes in the middle of the night we wake up, I don't know if we do, but it makes us uncomfortable. When you hear this story, hopefully the first thought you have is, we've never really even connected to the Zohar. No. Has any of us been in a situation at least close to being sick, jumping into a frozen river and standing there for a few hours studying Zohar? That's really studying the Zohar. So what I want to say is, again, not that any one of us has to jump into the river, a frozen river tomorrow, and that's the way we study Zohar. But the understanding is that the distance between somebody who's really connected and somebody who's almost connected is how uncomfortable are we making ourselves for the connection, for the Zohar, for the spiritual work, for sharing with other people. And I think one of the important understandings, and by the way, making ourselves uncomfortable, sometimes we do it, and sometimes people do it for us, right? So either way is fine, if you understand that in order to really connect to the Zohar, to the light of the Kabbalah, to the light of the Creator, how uncomfortable am I making myself for the purpose of the connection? And that's another very important consciousness to have when we think about the center, we think about our work in the center, we think about our connection in the center. How uncomfortable am I making, or how uncomfortable am I being made for the purpose of this work? If we are, or at least if we're accepting of the times that we are, then there's a chance that we're really connected, that we're really doing the work, that we're really connected to the light of the Creator, we're really connected to the essence of the light of the Zohar and the essence of Kabbalah. So I wish all of us, I give all of us, today, as we said, is the day that our soul in its complete potential shines to us. So I give all of us, especially those of us from Ecuador, from Mexico, from Paraguay, Paraguay, from somebody's here from Ecuador as well, Ecuador, from Mexico, Panama, from Sao Paulo, from Brazil, that we have the merit both to be connected to the essence of this work and that we desire to make ourselves uncomfortable to do this work. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Thank you.